Dornbush download number 74. Not a lot to be happy about this morning, Michael, is there? Andrew Michael, Dornbush Partners. Not a lot to be terribly happy about, is there?
That's right, Andrew. Good morning to everyone. Yes, it's a pretty fickle old beast, this stock market at the moment.
Fickle? I think that's not one of the terms I've heard used here this morning. This is a family-friendly video. Fickle is not one of the terms.
A couple of other F words could be thrown in, no doubt. But we will not go there definitely. But no, it's a tough old gig at the moment, Andrew, for sure.
She's a tough old game.
You know, we're getting all sorts of mixed messages. Investors really aren't too sure which way to go. It's a day-by-day process, and probably will continue to be so for a little while.
And you had the Reserve Bank yesterday not decreasing interest rates. They won't be increasing any interest rates anytime soon, and I think a few people were hoping that the RBA would actually drop rates. We saw the Bank of Japan last week actually have negative interest rates. Think about that for a moment. When you are whinging about your 2%, you could be living in Japan and be getting negative interest rates. So I think a few people were sort of thinking rather that in fact the RBA might drop rates. They didn't do that, and so we saw our market fall into a bit of a mini heap, and then we're down 80 odd at time of filming today.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. I mean, certainly again more dovish sort of commentary from the RBA, but they're in a tricky spot at the moment, aren't they? Because I think if they do cut rates again, it would send a pretty negative message that perhaps we are really struggling, and it can have that it's that double-edged sword, I guess, sort of scenario, isn't it?
But if you look at the minutes were actually saying that the Australian economy is actually performing quite well. Not quite sure who they're talking to about that, but the Australian economy is performing quite well. They're pinning it all on the international guys, and of course, as we've lamented over many weeks now, China's not going along so well. That falling oil price, which is one of the reasons we're copping it today. We had a bit of a relief rally there on oil late last week, early this week. In the last 2 days, it's just fallen into another little mini heap. So where do you turn, humble Dornbush download viewer? Where do you turn? Well, look, there's a few that we're looking at. Do you want to talk about one of the ones that you're looking at, Michael?
Yes, Andrew. No, well, we've Altium's been one that's sort of popped up on the radar. A few, reasonably positive consensus reports have come out about Altium.
ALU's the code.
ALU's the code. Basically, a software designer for electronics products, engineers, that sort of thing. They've consistently been able to grow their earnings and subsequently their profit now over the last couple of years. So, information technology is the sector, of course, that they're in. Primarily all the earnings are from overseas, predominantly America and Europe, around about 80%. Remaining 20-odd%, comes from China, Southeast Asian areas, which is probably not a bad thing at the moment. Certainly probably America, and albeit Europe, you could argue perhaps that a bit more stable just for the time being at least. But certainly one, to keep an eye out. Solid, very solid balance sheet, very little debt. Dividends not too bad, around about 16 cents they're paying on the current price. I think current price is about $5.30 at the moment. So, you're not going to get rich on the dividend, but their earnings per share is expected to be about 24 cents. So there's heaps of fat in the system there. Andrew, certainly one that, we're pretty keen to sort of maybe pick up, when the value looks right. The value doesn't look too bad at the moment.
And a good announcement the other day, partnering with, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but it's an overseas company.
Dassault or something like that.
World's largest software engineering company. We'll get there eventually. So that's a big positive for them as well. So certainly, in that information technology space, ALU looks interesting. And again, these companies that we're talking about are more emerging leaders. They're a little bit more at the pointy end. There is substance to them, but emerging leader companies do carry a higher level of risk. But, frankly, if you'd invested in ANZ, BHP, Woolies, all the blue chip companies last year, you'd just be copping a bath at the moment. So that's why we're sort of tending to look at some of these emerging leader ones. Two that we've been looking at, but I'll talk about today. One is Blackmores. So Blackmores just went absolutely ballistic last year, and at its absolute high got to about $220. So again, Blackmores is the vitamin company. With this most recent market pullback, they're back at about $178, something like that at the moment. So still quite expensive. If you look at the earnings though, the PE, so that's how we measure the value of a company, it's only 30 times. Now 30 is quite high. The average is around 14, 15. But you're looking at very strong earnings per share growth past and also projected into the future. I was reading this morning the Chinese vitamin market is $20 billion per annum, and that's growing by around 10% per annum. And there is huge growth in online sales at the moment. The Chinese eBay is called Tmall, and they're seeing significant increases, about 45% increase in online retailing in China, and a lot of that is actually, and we'll talk about another one in a second, but Blackmores is a primary beneficiary of that. So you're paying a higher PE, very strong earnings growth forecast, and exposure to that Chinese vitamin market, which is going pretty well. The other one that we've been looking at is Bellamy's, BAL. They are involved in baby formula. It's around 88% of their earnings. The point of differentiation for Bellamy's is though they manufacture, they outsource the manufacturing of organic baby formula. So, there's lots of baby formula manufacturers out there, but we're seeing a lot of the mums actually starting to go towards organics. Here in Australia, they sell through Woolies, Coles, IGA, Costco. They've now got about 14% market share. Last year, they only had about 10%. So that extra 40% growth has actually come about by virtue of that focus on organics. Profits are meant to increase by about 170% this year, 150% next year. So again, strong interest in that Chinese market. When you go into Woolies, I shop at Woolies, got those little signs up saying, you can only buy 1 or 2 tins at a time because there's huge interest in that sector. Again, the PE is a little demanding, but on that type of strength of growth, by virtue of the fact that, I think, was it 2010 or 11, we had those poor kids in China that died by the tainted baby formula. So now there is huge demand for Australian and New Zealand baby formula. So certainly that's another one that we're taking a pretty close look at. Got to an all-time high of around $15 with this most recent pullback, back at about $12.80. So again, similar to like an Altium. They have run hard. If you look at the charts, which have been showing up as we've been talking, they're all showing up, but they're also pulling back a little bit. And, these are ones that from an emerging leader point of view in particular, we look interesting anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great time to top up on a bit of weakness at the moment, for sure.
Last thing, do you want to briefly touch on what's going on with Clydesdale? We've spoken for a few weeks now, and today was meant to be the day. What happened?
Yes, we're just about Clydesdale's out, aren't we? We were hoping that we might have a result regarding the listing today, but it has been postponed until tomorrow. Basically, some credit rating agency issues. So the stock will list in London tonight. That's the Clydesdale Yorkshire Banking Group. And we'll subsequently hit our market tomorrow, 10 o'clock our time.
Under the code?
CYB. Interesting too, Andrew. Yeah, they got it away overseas for £1.80, suggesting say $3.70. I think if you use the current conversion. NAB traded today ex the Clydesdale entitlement. They were down about $1.30. So
inferring that it could actually be a little bit higher, maybe, because it's 1 for 4. So, it'll be interesting to see how it comes on, and we might mention it briefly next week, then we'll promise we won't mention Clydesdale again, because we're over it.
We just about had enough, absolutely.
All right, well, that's about it for me. You're okay?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Till next week. Thank you.
Thank you.